Yeah, I have an electric dragster, and I set the record at 189.04. I was trying to go 200 first, but a guy out west beat me to it. He went 201, thinking about the car beating his record, taking the record back.
That's amazing. I mean, and considering too, I mean, that when you guys, you would go out there and make these runs, and you did this for the majority of your career. You go out and make that run, and you come back, and then you put on the gloves, and you took the motor apart, and you put it back together.
Yeah, I built the cars, I tuned the cars, I drove the cars, and I took the cars back and forth to the racetracks. At the end, I had crews that helped me with that, but I did go, even at the end, I rode in the trucks a lot. But in the beginning, we actually drove the trucks and drove the trailers home, did the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, drag racing is a lot different now. It's a lot more electronic. You know, we talked about that a little bit.
Very,
a little while
very,
ago.
very professional and very, very expensive.
Yes. I mean, what did you have in your entire race operation? When you switched over to 14, what did you have in your?
You mean the amount of money invested?
Yeah, what did it cost you to run on a weekend?
Oh, you know, the motels, food, attrition on parts, maybe $500. That's why if you made $1,250, you made $750 profit.
Yeah. And a motor in one of the top fuel cars now is how much?
Oh, $250,000. Easy.
Yeah, it's a little different than it used to be. Huh?
When they crashed one of those cars and totally destroyed, they really tore up some stuff.
Oh yeah.
And they're just tickled to death to save the driver, and they usually do. There haven't been 6 killed in the 50 years since then. Yeah. And think about that with all those speed, and this 2 years got 6.
Yeah.
The NHRA was getting ready to outlaw the class.
Were they really?
Yeah, they just about had enough of it.
Yeah.
And what's so funny, at first it was just that class was the rear engine. Now they're all rear engine, all the classes.
Yeah.
Even the little junior dragsters.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you're 87 now, right?
88.
88. Oh. Well, most guys your age are sitting at home watching TV.
Or maybe doing a little fishing.
Doing a little fishing, yeah. Playing with something in the garage. You're still racing.
Yeah, I have an electric dragster, and I set the record at 189.04. I was trying to go 200 first, but a guy out west beat me to it. He went 201 just a few weeks ago, and so it beat me to the 200. So now we're thinking about the car beating his record, taking the record back. Yeah. That's the goal right now, and we are building some special batteries. Race Pack, the Holly Race Pack group made a special computer for me and put it on there. We found out that the motor was demanding a lot more power than the batteries I had could supply. Okay. And this was one of the problems. And what to do, it just, like we call it the vampire. It was just sucking all the juice out of the batteries right off the bat, and the motor horsepower then fall off to about 500 at the end. So it just wasn't going to go anyplace. Ran good ETs. We've been 7.05, but only 186 miles an hour. Then we finally did reach 189.
Was it it's just not enough juice to maintain it?
Not enough battery.
So we're that much power.
The battery people are working on batteries as we speak.
Oh wow, that's amazing. So, what you think? First at 220 maybe?
Well, let's just be realistic. I like to go see if it's going to go 205 and maybe 210. It's really, it isn't just, you can't just grab at a number because it's so hard to increase the speed because the wind resistance keeps squaring itself. So you've got a real problem with wind, and it just takes so much power. See, those fuel dragsters make 11,500 horse, but they would run they'd probably run 360 in the quarter mile today if you turn them loose. But they only run 1,000 feet, and I think they've reached 340 in the 1,000 foot.
Whew.
Yeah. That's unbelievable they can do that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we're talking about 3.5 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, if a car goes 60 miles an hour in 3.5 seconds, it's pretty good. But how about 340? I was up on the starting line when all this was going on this last week, and it's hard to believe or comprehend what's going on there. 2,300-pound machine moves to 125 miles an hour in 0.8 of a second.
Right.
I mean, think of that.
Yeah,
They get 8 Gs. They're subjected to a full 8 Gs of gravity when they hit the go pedal. And it just moves about that far, you know. It's just like an off and on switch. It's not a deal like we used to be able to pedal them. You can't do that anymore. It's just you turn it off or on.
So how is it making that transition from, you know, you went from, you know, straight gasoline motors to nitro motors to electronics on those motors, now to an all-electric car, which is an entirely different set of technology altogether. How is that?
That was the most difficult one, because the other, what you talk about on the gasoline, we went to gasoline to alcohol, and then with 10% nitro, 20% nitro, and so on until you got to 100%. And then we put a supercharger on, and then we slowed the supercharger down, and not much nitro, and just all gradual. But this, from fuel to electric, was bing. You know, it wasn't like some gradual deal. It took a while to get those other things going, but just overnight you're electric. I just didn't know that much about the motors and the electronics, and so I have people that help me with that. I just had the idea of doing it, you know.
Yeah.
And it came from Daryl Gwynn and I had a couple of electric dragsters. They were just exonerated golf carts is all they were. You know, Daryl Gwynn was hurt real bad, you know, in drag racing.
I saw him this weekend. He looks good.
Yeah. And so we did a series a number of years ago with NHR. We did match races with these little electric dragsters that looked like our cars from 1986. And we raised money for the Spinal Cord Foundation. But we wanted to go like 100 miles an hour in a quarter, but we couldn't do that because Daryl had to have the little wobble stick to control his, and it was just too sensitive. Again, we couldn't get it slowed down enough where he could drive that car at 100 miles an hour, but he could drive it around 30 to 35, so that's what we did. We just reduced the batteries to, they only went about 30, we had 32, I think we ended up. And so when the series was over, I said to the guy that built the golf cart deals, I said, his name was Mike Gary, I said, Mike, how fast do you think we could go on one of these things that we just took the gloves off? And he said, I bet we could go 200 miles an hour. I said, really, let's do it.
And that's how all this got started.
So we built Swamp Rat 37, and we right away raised the record. It was 156, we raised it to 174, and when that car went out of service, it had been raised to 186 and 7.25. But it was a real heavy car because we just took an old fuel car and converted it. You know, we didn't want to build a fresh car. But so then after I learned all, then I built Swamp Rat 38, which was a fresh car just for the electric motor. And right off the bat, we went 189.04, 7.23 seconds, and then COVID-19 hit and everything parked.
And the world stopped.
And that really cost me the chance to go 200 because these other guys were on it and they didn't stop. And they kept going to some track out there in the west that they could run at. And I was having trouble getting to a track because in the meantime, NHRA had not approved my car and they didn't like the electric car. And I was running at I was running at Bradenton. But then they bought the Bradenton track and I couldn't run there either. So I had to go all the way to West Palm Beach where I set the 189. But since then, my car has been approved and I can run any NHRA track I like. And I've been to Gainesville a couple of times, but the track wasn't prepared properly for what we were trying to do. it takes a lot of track to hold. It takes just like a fuel dragster, because
Yeah.
it moves that first 60 feet in a second instead of 8/10, because that's still pretty quick.
Yeah. So what does that thing make for horsepower?
So my motor's about 1,250 horse,
Okay. And torque?
about the same.
About the same.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a good 1,000 foot-pounds of torque. And the thing about it is it gets that at 1 RPM. It does that immediately.
Yeah.
We have no transmission, no clutch, nothing. It's just motor sitting there idle, you just give it the juice. But it goes through some computerized, we call them, they're Zilla controllers. You just can't plug that. We've got 4,000 amps, 400 volts, and you can't just turn that to the motor. You got to give that to it gradually. So we have computers, and they call them controllers that regulate that.
All right. All right. So what's next for Don Garlits? What do you got on the plate? What are you looking forward to now?
Well, I would like to get this electric dragster where it was real usable. We're having problems with the batteries being so technical and so sensitive. They have to be maintenance. They have to be nursemaided like a little baby. We need batteries that we can put in the car and just hook up a trickle charger on them, and they're just fine, and then go to a track, and as long as they got a 220 outlet for us to plug our charger into, that would be the only requirement. We can make 3 runs, and sometimes, like I made several runs, didn't even charge it between runs, and set a record on the second run with 37. So it'd be nice you charge it and make your 3 runs, and you're all set. 3 exhibition runs. I would like to next year take this Swamp Rat 38 around and demonstrate the quiet car.
That would be very cool.
And you can hear the tires screeching going down the track, and it's kind of cool. Makes nice burnouts and all that. All looks like a real deal, but then it just and I'd like to do that because it will never replace the fuel cars and stuff that we're like, but there is a place for it in drag racing. And then this car can run late at night and in areas where they have noise abatement laws, because it's quiet. And so there's a good little niche for it out there, and that I would like to do that next year if that's feasible. So we're really hoping that these batteries will be a little more dependable here on out.
Yeah, they seem to be getting better all the time. So
You can't believe the technology changed. My original batteries weighed 750 pounds and cost $150,000. The batteries that's in the car right now cost $25,000 and weigh 240 pounds. And we're hoping that the next ones will be even less expensive and weigh less. So battery technology is changing. I tell people that ask me about the conventional electric cars, that you see. In our lifetime, we will see the electric car will charge up on this side of the country and drive to the other coast without a charge. We'll live to see that. The problem that we're going to have, the problem as I see facing the electric car, commercially speaking, is everybody can't have them. The grid won't support it.
right.
In other words, everybody in the block can't plug their electric car in at night and charge it up. That's not going to be possible. And that has to be taken care of long before everybody gets them. Now, you can make it where certain places you can have that kind of power. Like in the cities, they could fix it so that they could build a charging grid in the city, and that's what they must have done in London. I went to London a couple of years ago, and you pull up to your parking meter and you can put your credit card in and plug in your electric car and charge right while you're in the parking meter.
All right. Well, I think that's about all we got time for today. Don, thank you so much for being here in the Dream Giveaway Garage with us today. It's been phenomenal having you in here.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Hopefully we'll get you back here real soon too. So all of you out there, thanks for being with us today. We appreciate it. Thanks again to living legend and icon Don Garlits, Big Daddy Don Garlits, and we'll see you next time in the Dream Giveaway Garage.